It happens often with no warning.
We have a house explosion. Holy.
A silent threat lurking beneath the ground, suddenly igniting. Buildings blown apart in an instant. Lives lost and forever changed.
Right there, under the couch!
By natural gas leaks that linger and turn catastrophic.
I saw a ball of flame coming at me.
Wayne Sargent survived it.
I just can't believe what I'm looking at here is what had actually happened to me.
What happened was front page news in Sargent's hometown of Gloucester, Massachusetts for 4 straight days in 2009. Stunning photos show the day the home his grandfather built nearly 100 years ago exploded after natural gas from an underground leak nearby built up in his basement.
The noise was like nothing I'd ever heard. The roar of the building coming apart.
Sargent was buried under a pile of rubble, with neighbors running to free him. The very people who rescued him had been reporting leaks for days leading up to the explosion that leveled his house and took the life of his beloved dog, Penny.
There's an autographed baseball.
What could be salvaged now sits in glass-covered cases in Sargent's living room, shattered, soot-covered reminders of an experience that still haunts him.
It's been more than a decade since this happened, but it still feels so fresh.
It's something that it damaged and it hurt so much. The pain, it never goes away.
After the fire, Sargent spent several days in intensive care with severe burns to his hands and head. 13 years later, he's still dealing with PTSD, channeling his pain into efforts to raise awareness about natural gas leaks.
I didn't want what happened to me to happen to someone else.
But incidents as shocking as Sargent's have happened across the nation. In 2010, a pipeline ruptured underneath a neighborhood in San Bruno, California, sending natural gas spewing out of a crater 72 feet long. The inferno that resulted killed 8 people, injured more than 50, and wiped 38 homes off the map. In 2018, footage shows the aftermath of explosions and fires that rocked 3 towns outside Boston after investigators determined failures in the engineering management of an ongoing project mistakenly sent the full pressure of the natural gas system into customers' homes. Dozens were injured, and an 18-year-old was killed while sitting outside a house that exploded. And in 2019, a Ring camera in Philadelphia captured this: crews battling an enormous fire that erupted following a natural gas leak. A new lawsuit blames the leak on a crack in the city's aging, corroded pipes. The 5 row homes that once stood here are gone, destroyed in the fire that took the lives of 2 people. Those are the stories, but we wanted to know the numbers to see how often major gas-related incidents happen and result in disaster. Our national investigative team spent the last few months analyzing 12 years' worth of data from PHMSA, the Federal Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration. The agency requires utilities to report gas-related incidents that meet certain criteria, including those with deaths, injuries that require hospitalization, or result in damage totaling more than $122,000. Using PHMSA's data, we found that since 2010, there have been more than 2,700 significant gas leak incidents across the country. 362 of those resulted in explosions. And in the last 12 years, major leak incidents have injured nearly 700 people and killed more than 140.
So what that tells you is that these gas leaks, these incidents, these explosions, they're not one-off, they're not isolated, they are a symptom of the energy system that pipes explosive, dangerous gas through our neighborhoods and to our homes.
Matt Casal is with the U.S. Public Interest Research Group, or PIRG, which recently released a report highlighting what it sees as the dangers associated with natural gas.
Do you think most people are aware of the risk that is literally right underneath them?
I don't think people are aware that this is such a widespread problem where there are these constant and continuous leaks in our system, in the pipelines that are bringing the gas to our homes that, pose this risk that they could light or explode really at any time.
The risk, Perg believes, is even higher given only a fraction of the nation's leaks have to be disclosed to the government. Every year, there are an estimated 600,000 leaks, and that's just in the local systems that bring gas to our homes, according to a recent study.
The gas utilities need to be focusing their investment on identifying and fixing leaks. That should be priority number one.
But leak repairs can be like a game of whack-a-mole with higher stakes. Federal data shows the number of major leak incidents throughout the entire natural gas system has remained steady over the last decade.
Almost all of our leaks are caused by two things.
Christina Sames is the Vice President for Safety Operations and Security for the American Gas Association, which represents the distributors, the companies that deliver gas into our houses. She points out excavation damage and outside forces from things like cars hitting gas meters account for more than half of all leaks and serious incidents associated with distribution lines. But our data digging also shows at least 20% of the distribution incidents were linked to factors like incorrect operation, equipment failures, and corrosion.
Sorry, I get a little emotional when I talk about incidents. The expectation is that every operator, I'm sorry, just give me a second.
It makes you emotional. Why?
Because when you look at the statistics, just in a relatively short period of time, that is a lot of lives, and that's a lot of incidents. So I get upset for the things that are out of our control. For the things that are in our control, I get upset that we didn't have the technology to, in many cases, to identify the issue.
Their issues, Sames says, are now being identified and fixed faster through what the industry calls integrity management, where companies look for threats to the lines that move gas around the nation and decide what should be replaced, repaired, or watched. Leak surveys are a key part of that.
Definitely always important to do this job correctly.
Companies across the country showed us the tools they're using. From cars that can pick up leaks while driving by, to drones that can spot them from miles away.
It's pretty sensitive.
For now, handheld leak detectors at the street level are still the go-to, with crews conducting routine surveys to check for gas in the air. And patrols also looking for visual signs of leakage or damage. But the federal requirements only call for gas companies to do those inspections once a year in business districts and once every 5 years in less populated areas. Sames says most operators go beyond those requirements. But even when they spot a leak and make a repair, it doesn't always mean the problem is solved.
I was living in a different kind of ignorance, I guess, prior to coming out here with the camera.
After being told by her gas company last year that a series of leaks on her Pennsylvania street had been fixed, Melissa Ostroff decided to do her own inspection, taking out a special gas detection imaging camera she happened to have for her job as a certified thermographer.
It is specially calibrated to see hydrocarbons, including methane, that would otherwise be invisible to the naked eye.
Ostroff captured these images, showing natural gas flowing out of a manhole cover on the street between her apartment and an elementary school. What do you think would have happened on this street if you and that special gear hadn't detected these leaks?
I mean, there's no way to know what would have happened, but there could have been an explosion, potentially.
And right now, there's no federal requirement for companies to immediately or directly notify the public about the leaks they find, how they've been graded for risk, and when they'll be repaired, something advocacy groups say needs to change.
Do gas companies have a responsibility to let people know about leaks where they live?
They actually have a lot of information that is available to the public. Every operator is required to file an annual report.
But that's at the end of the year. We're talking about actively right now on my street. If there's a leak, shouldn't I know about it?
If it's hazardous, then the companies are going to make sure that you're aware, stay out of this area. If it's potentially impacting your house, they will make sure you're evacuated. They're going to take the precautions to keep you safe.
Wayne Sargent doesn't feel that way. Leaks had been reported, and crews worked on the gas lines in his neighborhood in the weeks leading up to the explosion that took the only home he's ever known. But he didn't learn about the scope until after he lost nearly everything. His house has now been rebuilt on the same site, marked in a way that almost feels like a museum, honoring what happened.
Do you think you'll ever truly be able to put this completely behind you?
I don't think so. It's always with me. Certain things will trigger what I remember from that morning, and but I learned to live with it, and that's what you have to do.